guest to come in and talk about that. And what a time, because I'm not the only one talking about this. These goofballs are at the administration are also obsessed with immigration and labor, and there is no other goofball more equipped to show his ass than the one, the only Stephen Miller. So I want y'all to see what he said today. Here we go. We're gonna get started. Welcome to the Antidote. Let me make sure this is up here, and then bam. Here we go. Add the stage. Let's go like this. Hold on. Let me make sure that this is good. Add to stage. There we go. That's what I want to do. And
also fighting to get critical race theory out of our school districts. Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding. So as we close the Department of Education and we provide funding to states, we are going to make sure that these funds are not being used to promote communist ideology. For any nation to be successful, it cannot teach its children to hate themselves and to hate their country. So these are a few of the areas in which President Trump has fought the cancerous communist woke culture that was destroying this country, where we were led to believe that men were women, that women were men, that racial discrimination was good, that merit was bad, and that safety and physical security mattered less than the feelings of liberal ideologues. The president has also fought to return the Department of Justice to its core mission of protecting public safety and locking up violent criminals, instead of using the Department of Justice to target conservatives, to target Christians, to target people of faith. The last administration,
he's hitting all the high notes,
and shamefully used the power of the Justice Department to go after law-abiding Americans, in particular Trump supporters, conservatives, and Christians. That persecution has ended. The Department of Justice and the FBI are back in the business of going after bad guys, of going after gangs, of going after criminals, and keeping Americans safe. Let me just conclude before taking questions by noting that when you look at the sweep of the first 100 days, every single crisis that has afflicted America for years, sometimes decades, sometimes generations, this president has fought head on. He has taken on every entrenched power structure and system all across this government, this swamp, this town. That includes, of course, the Doge efforts to slash corrupt, wasteful government spending, graft, and corruption, and to stop billions of taxpayer dollars from going to radical left NGOs. These are left-wing nonprofits that are used to advance illegal immigration, to advance open borders, to advance gender ideology, and to advance all of this insanity that has been turning our country in the wrong direction for so many years. President Trump took head on the trade crisis afflicting this country with the destruction of our manufacturing and industrial base, the shameful betrayal of the American worker by Joe Biden and the globalists that sent all of our supply chains overseas. He took head on the catastrophe of mass, unlimited illegal immigration that was turning us into a failed third world state, and achieved the lowest level of illegal immigration in recorded history without even a close second. He took on the economic crisis afflicting this country by reopening American energy, by defeating inflation, by lowering gas prices, by ending the onslaught and reversing the onslaught of federal regulation, by reopening coal, shale, oil, natural gas, and fighting now for the largest tax cut and reform and the largest deregulation reform and the largest energy reform in American history. These are just some of the things that have ushered in the new golden age, along with his fight to restore the peace that we had for 4 years under the previous administration before Joe Biden sunk this planet into bloodshed and war in the Middle East, in Europe, and rising tensions in Asia. President Trump, in every area of conflict around the globe, has been fighting to restore peace, security, stability, harmony. So he inherited an economic catastrophe, a border catastrophe, a public safety catastrophe, and a cultural catastrophe. And in every case, he has reversed those catastrophes and brought America into the new golden age. So I thank you for your time, and I look forward to any questions you have.
Well, here we are. Whew. My man hit all the high notes, y'all. He hit all the classics. He hit on illegal immigration, threw in a little trans hate in there. This is we gotta close this. Yeah, that is Stephen Miller, and thank God I do not have to wade through all this nonsense by myself. I have the one, the only Professor Nolan Cabrera with us again. We're gonna welcome him. What's up, Nolan? How you doing, brother? Happy May Day.
Happy May Day, bro. Happy May Day, man.
Man, not to start with a wham, but white men like Stephen Miller are on their thing
They are.
today. That was a press conference from today. Help us make sense of it, man. What are your would love to hear just your reaction to that.
Well, the first one, and I'm gonna do this because it dates you and me. If you go all the way back to that track Super Solstice, I think it was on Warren G, right? I talked so much, it's I got halitosis. The BS he was spewing was it was a consistent like I started writing down all the lies. I stopped. I couldn't keep up because
You can't keep up with them.
you can't keep up. And it's one of those things and that's the danger of this administration is that they tell so many lies, right? It was sort of like when Biden would lie or when his press secretary would be like, oh, the president is in excellent mental health. And then they talk about his trade policy. Like there was like a couple of bold-faced lies in there, and then they would try to get to some
Yeah,
truth, but it was all this stuff. This is just lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. So no, off the top of my head, number one, I know this. I'm at College of Education. I'm in schools all the time, and I teach critical race theory.
right.
Any one of my seminars has maybe 10, 12 students in it. I'm in an institution where critical race theory is maybe taught 4 or 5 different spaces across campus in an institution of 53,000, and it's supposed to be for graduate students primarily. So this whole idea, it's just a straw person argument. It just doesn't exist. But that's the strategy. That is the underlying strategy. Is when you can take things that people don't know and amplify it, it makes them afraid. And when they're afraid, they do stupid things like vote for Trump.
Right.
Then, in the same way that I think I was really it was fascinating to me about how much a critical lens to society is seen as hating America, hating our society, all this stuff. And what's fascinating for me about that is it's a rhetorical device that they use all the time. Like if I say, "Wow, we were a country that was founded on the enslavement of black folk and the theft and physical and cultural genocide of indigenous peoples," which are just historical facts. All of a sudden, you're hating America, and it's like I keep thinking about this, and I'm like, if I applied that ethic to my child, right? He steps
Right.
out of line. But I say, no, because I love you. Everything you do and everything you've done and everything you're going to do in the future is perfect and wonderful and beautiful. That would be me being neglectful as a parent. That would be me actually not loving my child because I'm not trying to push him to be better when he steps out, right? But
Right.
all of this is just pure nonsense. And at the end of the day, it reminds me a lot of that movie, Thank You for Smoking, where the lobbyist for the tobacco companies, he was so good at framing debates because he doesn't actually notice how they don't say anything specific, right? It's just they were bad, ergo we are good, and
Right.
everything we do now is the best. By any indicator, our economy is in a free fall. The stock market, which I really don't care about. I mean, I don't. I'm not.
It's never been a measure for my people on how the economy is, or how we distributing resources was never the stock market where we went to.
Exactly, but at the same time, there is something about that like
Sure.
when it tumbles like that, and like even the capitalist class is going, oh my God, this is not good, right?
Yeah.
It's all smoke and mirrors and lies, and then when because again, you don't have to have any due process for folks. You just have to label them as an illegal, a gang member, a terrorist. That's all you got to do, and it makes it so you can do anything with it. But let's flip it on its head. Let's say, okay, fine, you're not in charge anymore. This is okay. We're okay with this. Right. Fine. Stephen Miller, you terrorized families, and he literally did. That's exactly what he does. He's just this he's this nasty little excuse me, I don't want to cuss.
You can cuss on here, man.
Yeah, I guess FCC is not going to.
We'll slap the explicit lyrics thing in the corner.
But remember back in the day, that showed you where all the good content was.
I was about to say, I remember being like, man, I hope they let me buy this CD.
Exactly. But no, but that dude, all he does is if we flipped it and said, okay, fine, this dude is terrorizing our communities, which is what he does. That's explicitly what he has set out to do his entire life. Even when he was those videos when he was in high school and was like, why should I have to pick up trash? We have Mexicans to do that and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Now he can terrorize these people in the sense of what do we have? 3 kids, one of whom, all 3 are U.S. citizens, one of whom was in cancer treatment.
Stage 4 cancer treatment.
Exactly. Being deported with their mother. Okay, fine. We flip it on its head. You terrorized our people. We're going to deport you. Oh, you're a U.S. citizen? Sorry, it doesn't matter because you're a terrorist. They would never, ever, ever consider that with the shoes on the other foot, that it would be okay to deport Steve Bannon and or Donald Trump or any of the Trump kids or any of these cats or Stephen Miller, any of these cats who are involved in it. It's ludicrous for them to think that this would actually apply to them in some meaningful way. And so it's totally okay. But that in many respects is the caucasity of whiteness, is that it works for some, but it doesn't work for us because you have that white immunity or the protection, the complexion of protection for the collection, as Paul Mooney used to say.
Yep. Well, and I think so. That's gets us to where I want to talk about. You see on the banner there, some folks watching this might be like, "What do you mean he brags about white nationalism? He didn't say anything about race necessarily, right? He used woke ideology. He talked about undocumented people, but that's what they're counting on.
Exactly.
They're counting on the idea that in our heads, and by our I mean people who look like me, that we imagine our communities as only people who look like me. Exactly. Right. And so when he says American, he's counting on white folks being like, yeah, get those brown people, get those people with those funny sounding names and who pray to a different God or who speak a different language, get them out. Yep. Right. And that's and critical race theory opens the door, obviously just by the name, right, for a critical analysis of how race has operated in the shaping of America.
Exactly.
And there's something at the root. And I refuse it. A lot of people will say, like, oh, white folks don't know. They just don't know if we educate. I used to be one of those, like, hey, if we just educate, things will be better. Once you know better, you'll do better. Yep. And the reality is that that's just not true. Right.
It's sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. It's not the strategy. It can be the strategy.
Exactly.
Right? Because there are people like Stephen Miller who know.
They don't. They know exactly.
He knows. He's articulated. Him, Chris Rufo has articulated. We are going to lump all these things that we understand are not related to one another.
Yep.
We're going to lump them together, and we're going to make people fear them.
Exactly.
And it serves as everything because our community, how whiteness has always operated, is by creating community around whiteness, which has also and whiteness was the prereq for access to a mainstream economy, which is how we get to why are we talking about this on May Day, on International Worker Day? Because the construction of race in our communities in this country has always been deeply tied to who we imagine as our racial compatriots, our communities, right? And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that and how race and labor shape what's going on here.